We are back on All Bengals. I'm Lindsay Patterson. You know this guy, Peter King, over on NBC Sports. His work, Football Morning in America on Monday morning. Do you have to read it? Peter, how you doing?
Everything's good, Lindsay. How about you?
I think things are going okay in the Queen City as of today. We're recording this on a Wednesday. Big game on Saturday at Paul Brown Stadium. I'm going to back it up to about 2 weeks ago when this team clinched the division versus the Kansas City Chiefs. If somebody would have told you prior to the season, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be the AFC North champions, what would you say?
I would have been surprised, but not shocked because I was so high on Joe Burrow. It was clear that the Steelers were in decline, but I really thought the Browns and the Ravens would fight for the division title. I really like the Browns, and I think clearly, a few things happened this year. Baker Mayfield getting hurt early and exacerbating the injury a couple times during the year. He just was not good, really, with any consistency all year. And then Lamar Jackson getting hurt, the Ravens suffering a huge number of injuries, and then Joe Burrow coming out and playing exactly like the quarterback at LSU that made the Bengals fall in love with him. And what really sticks out in my mind about the Bengals right now is that when I was in town about a month ago to cover the Bengals 49ers game, I had a phone conversation with Mike Brown, and I asked him about these reports that the Miami Dolphins were willing to offer 5-1s or some silly package for it. And he said it would not have mattered what the offer was. And at the time, I remember thinking to myself, be careful. There's two other really good quarterbacks in this draft. And, if you had to trade down, let's say, to number 5, and you picked up, let's say, 3 more ones, you're going to get one of those really good quarterbacks. And I thought, I understand falling in love with Joe Burrow, but you really might have wanted to consider that. And look, part of this is the fact that Mike Brown, once he's made a decision on something, he's not going to change that decision. But really, in retrospect, many times Mike Brown, when you look back at his major decisions, they haven't been great ones. But I think in this particular case, people in Cincinnati are going to thank him for the next 15 years or long after he is running the show with the Bengals.
You mentioned Joe Burrow, and a lot of people are putting him in the conversation, maybe a little bit of the MVP conversation, but more of the comeback player of the year. What makes this guy special? And do you think that he can be the comeback player of the year? And he should be.
As we sit here right now, Lindsay, I was just looking at my ballot, and I've got to make that decision. I've got 3 players who really interest me. One is Nick Bosa, the 49ers, who's come back strong, and the other 2 are quarterbacks, Dak Prescott and Joe Burrow. Whoever I pick, I'll feel bad that I didn't pick the other 2 people. So I'm not positive what I'm going to do yet, but I think what is so interesting about his comeback, about Joe's comeback, is that first of all, the injury happened, mid to late season, and it was more than just an ACL. To have him come back this quickly is really, really impressive. And, I think throughout the offseason, I heard him on Chris Collinsworth's podcast one day, and he basically told everybody to relax. I'm going to be fine. And maybe that's exactly what it was. He had a great surgeon, Neil Elatrash, in Los Angeles, the same surgeon who did Andrew Whitworth. In fact, it's funny. I saw Whitworth recently, and he said he's kind of become buddies with Burrow, even though obviously he left Cincinnati before Burrow got there. But because they both had the same surgeon, they become friends. They text and they really get along well. But I think I think that is the thing that really is a mark of Joe Burrow's personality, which is essentially that everybody else might be surprised on the outside by how precocious he's been and how impactful he's been early on. But I don't think Joe Burrow is.
We'll go to the number 5 pick from the 2021 draft. And I'm going to give you credit because every single time I have you on after that pick, you were all team Jamar Chase. You could see why this team would go wide receiver with the 5th pick. I said they should go wide receiver, and he's really helped them win a lot of games. What makes his skill set so special?
I think Duke Tobin had a decision to make, a big decision to make last April. And look, Penei Sewell had a very, very good rookie year for Detroit. So if they pick Penei Sewell, I doubt you will see a lot of people upset or thinking it was a dumb pick because he had such a good rookie year. But what made the Jamar Chase pick so good for Cincinnati is that it gave them a 3-headed monster when on almost all a team like Cincinnati with a great quarterback is going to play more than 50% 3 wides. And that's just all there is to it. And they have all year. And so what's crazy is that I think Tyler Boyd is a top 25 NFL wide receiver. I think he's really good. And just think the Bengals have 3 of those. So anytime you play Cincinnati, you've got to defend everyone, like all 3 players, like they're all game breakers. And I think obviously Jamar Chase being the biggest one is fantastic. But Jamar Chase, if he went to a team that didn't have another great wide receiver, they'd be in trouble. He would be in trouble. I think the fact that there are 3 of them makes it impossible for a defense to just take one of them away.
Before the season started, a lot of people, it was going to be Zach Taylor's year 3. The Bengals pretty much said, we're bringing him back for year 3. Joe Burrow tweeted in January that he was excited that Zach Taylor was going to be there. They obviously have a good relationship, and that's always good with the head coach and your quarterback. But he's really just turned it around in year 3. Yes, you have number 9. Yes, Jamar Chase, and this offense is really starting to connect, and that chemistry is growing. We saw a little bit before Joe Burrow's injury last year. What do you think about Zach Taylor in the year he's having as a head coach?
The thing I like about Zach Taylor is that he understands that coaching and life really is a work in progress. And I say that because I was just so impressed after the San Francisco game that he admitted that, I'll probably think about my play calling at the end. And obviously everybody in Cincinnati remembers that he handed the ball twice in a row to Joe Mixon, instead of down in the red zone, allowing Joe Burrow the chance to win the game when Burrow was having a lot better day than Joe Mixon was. And look, I think every coach, we saw it this past weekend. No coach, and there were 2 coaches trying to deal with one of the most unique situations in NFL history, which is that the clock is running down. Both teams could make the playoffs if they tied, and only one was going to make it if somebody won. So what do you do in a case like that? And I often think, and one of the reasons why I appreciated what Zach Taylor said after the San Francisco game is that there are no absolutes in coaching. If Joe Mixon had reeled off a 17-yard gain on one of those runs after the game, somebody probably would have said or written, man, everybody in the ballpark thought that Burrow was going to be that Zach Taylor was going to let Burrow throw the ball. Great call to give it to Mixon. And so it depends. The results very often dictate whether you have made the right call or not. And to me, I think Zach Taylor, I like the fact that he admits that he's growing on the job. And I think he has a team that likes that too. So many times coaches are, oh, I didn't make a mistake. And I'm not even saying that what Zach Taylor did was categorically a mistake. It didn't work out. So, history will view it as a mistake. I thought it was a mistake just watching the game, but I just like the fact that he's open, and everybody around that team will tell you he's a good teacher, and that's a good teaching coaching staff. So, and, it doesn't hurt to have the best young quarterback playing.
We'll flip sides the defense before we look ahead to the Raiders right now. I talked to you actually after the defense was struggling a little bit this season. You look at some of these free agents they got. Mike Hilton, Cheeto, Trey Hendrickson has been great for the defensive line. What do you like about the defensive side for the Cincinnati Bengals unit?
When Hendrickson is healthy, he's a Tasmanian devil. He's just very, very hard to block consistently. He's going to almost always get, every series, it seems he's getting a pressure. I just really like what he has brought. And I think when the Bengals were thinking about what to do in free agency this year, I remember thinking, man, Hendrickson, he's the beneficiary of so many good defensive players, so many good pieces in New Orleans. He's coming to a front seven. I'm not saying it's a wasteland, but they don't have a Cam Jordan on that front seven. So look, I underestimated some of the other pieces, especially like, a Hubbard, Hill, who they got in the trade with the Giants. That was an absolute steal. I think that what the Bengals have done that I really like is they've built a team of contributors on the defensive front that they can roll in there, because look, everybody knows that you need to have depth so that you're not asking, a 340-pound player to play 45 snaps every game. You need to have the kind of depth that the Bengals have built. So I like what they did. I really like the attitude of Hilton too, because he is, to me, a classic corner, that he's feisty. Nobody's better than me, that kind of attitude. And I love that, because that attitude is what you have to have when you're playing the best receivers in football. And I think it's going to be a real interesting test against the Raiders, because Hunter Renfrow has really become not just a nice little possession receiver, but he's a threat in every area of the field right now.
Looking ahead, I'll be completely honest with you. One final question when we look at Saturday. I've never seen a Bengals postseason win. It's 31 years. It's been a long time in Cincinnati. They're really hoping they can break that curse.
Lindsay, how old were you the last time they won a postseason game?
There's no existence of me.
You were not born yet.
I wasn't born yet. So I don't know what a playoff win looks like. This is it's wild to think that it could possibly happen on Saturday at Paul Brown Stadium. This feels like a different unit when you have a quarterback like Joe Burrow. But when you look at this matchup, do you think they're going to finally break the sports curse in Cincinnati?
I like their chances. First of all, I think the NFL did them a favor. First of all, the Raiders play the last game of the season. They play late Sunday night, and they play 5 quarters. And then you're asking them to come across country in a short week and probably play in some weather. And obviously they're used to playing in, a dome. And so I think it's to their advantage, clearly, the scheduling of the game. But I think this is going to come down to, for the Bengals, they've got to make sure that they block Max Crosby, and they devote a lot of time, energy, and scheme to blocking Max Crosby. I think Crosby's the only guy who can ruin this game for Cincinnati. because he has been borderline indestructible this year. And so I think that's an important part. And I just think Burrow's got to be Burrow. I like Cincinnati in this game. And I would have liked them if the Raiders had 2 weeks to prepare. But I just think it's Cincinnati's time. It's Burrow's time. I don't know how far. If pressed to the wall, I think right now at this moment, I'm not saying they're going to win it all, but I think you could argue that they're playing better than anybody in the AFC right now. Tennessee obviously is the top seed and they've earned it. Buffalo is so impressive, especially recently. I think it's going to be a really interesting set of playoffs in the AFC.
You're going to have Bengals fans so pumped for Saturday now. All they have to do is win one, get over the hump, break the curse in Cincinnati. Peter King, you were awesome with your time. Thank you again for joining us. Make sure everybody checks him out. You know where to find him over on NBC Sports. Monday Reading is the way to go. His Football Morning in America is the best in the NFL. I'm not just saying that because he's over here right now, but Peter, thanks for joining us on All Bengals.
Hey, thank you, Lindsay. It was a pleasure.